What's up everyone, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto story. What if Naruto Black Hole Bloodline Chunin exams? If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. 5 years later, sitting on the Hokage mountain was a boy around 5 feet 6 inches with shoulder-length crimson hair, gray cold eyes with a pentacle-shaped birthmark above the left one, wearing a black trench coat with a black shirt underneath it and torn loose-fitting jeans. He flipped a coin. He thought, heads I actually show up to class today with the losers and tails I go back to training. He flipped it once and high in the air and let it fall into his palm. Shit, he swore loudly as got up and walked slowly down the mountain while looking at the coin that came up heads. As he walked down the steps to get to the bottom, Naruto thought about the day after his arrival to the great village Konoha. Flashback. In the office of the Yondaime sat 3 people: Naruto, the Sandaime, and the Yondaime. As Naruto, sitting in the chair across from the desk, told them about his heritage and where he came from. So let me get this straight, you're from the kingdom of the foxes and that you're from that clan, and that clan is no more and there's only 2 survivors, you and the destroyer, said the Yondaime, rubbing his temple as the boy in front of him nodded. Reminds me too much of the Uchiha massacre that happened a couple months back. The Sandaime then took a look at the boy and asked, if you're part of that clan, how come you don't look like any of the member? The redhead sadly held up the cross on his neck. This disguises me so that I look like a normal human. It used to be used when my clan was persecuted a long time ago. The yellow flash sighed and said, you can stay in the village for as long as you want and I'll pay for an apartment for you, but I want the money back eventually, and in the meantime you can become a shinobi of our village if you want. Is it a deal? And extended his hand to the small boy. Naruto took a look at both of them and with a small smile on his face took the man's hand with his, shook it and said, deal. End flashback. Naruto let a small smile grace his face as he made his way to the streets of the business part of the village. As he looked around, all of the people around him looked at him with fear and started breaking out in small conversations. Look, it's the kid with the evil mark, we have to stay away from him or else something bad might happen to us. I heard that Shisui had that mark and look what happened to the Uchiha clan, there's only 3 of them left. After he heard the people he scowled at them and thought, God damn villagers, thank Kami I am only staying here temporarily or I might kill them all. Naruto finally walks up to the window of his class and slides in through the window, hoping the teacher was in the middle of some long lecture to notice, only for the teacher to throw a piece of chalk at him which he easily caught in his hand. Naruto. So nice of you to join us for once. Thanks to you interrupting the lesson, I think we're going to have a surprise clone technique test, yelled the teacher Iruka, who was wearing the standard Konoha shinobi uniform which included the vest. After this statement, all the kids in the class glared and exuded a small amount of killer intent from each of his classmates, which he shrugged off easy. What the hell are they so pissed about? Any idiot, you should be able to this technique after so many years here. After a bunch of kids were called, he finally heard the shout of Naruto. When he got to the front of the class, he heard a kid named Kiba arrogantly shout out, I bet this clan less Dobi can't do the technique, which is why he skips every day. All of a sudden he heard a couple of nervous chuckles because none of the class actually knew what Naruto did when he's not at school, and because they fear the mark above his eye because of it showing up on many powerful shinobi, most of them missing Nen. The red-haired boy just glares at the boy, shutting him up instantly and causing the small white dog on his head to whimper. At seeing this, Naruto smirks and says, clone technique, as burst of smoke appears leaving behind 3 perfect replications of the gray-eyed boy. Good job Naruto, you can go take your seat now, Iruka says proudly to the gray-eyed boy, who starts to make his way to his desk. Naruto walks right by Kiba and asks, how is that for a clan less Dobi, dog breath? Leaving the hoodie-wearing boy stunned. Naruto then takes his seat in a corner surrounded by no one on all sides and props up his feet and does a quick hand seal, and with a poof a bottle of red liquid falls into his hands. The other students of the class paid no attention to him because it was quite normal to want some juice in class, right? Naruto opens the bottle up and takes a quick sip of his juice. The blood tastes sweet today, I wonder what type it is today, as he smiles before taking a look around the room at fellow classmates. TCH, this class calls me a Dobi, when only about 11 of them have potential, thinks Naruto as his eyes fall one by one on each of the few with any talent. The first one was a boy sleeping on his desk wearing a gray shirt and long black hair pulled into a ponytail. Nara Shikamaru. Lazy as hell. A genius though and can use his clan's shadow techniques. Next to him was a boy who was big-boned, with a green shirt on and what looked like underwear on his head. Akamichi Choji, almost as lazy as his best friend. All I've ever seen him do when I come to class is eat. He also can use his clan's body-changing techniques. His eyes next fell on two arguing girls. He looked at the blonde one first, who was in a purple dress with a lot of makeup on and long hair flowing all the way down to her lower back. Yamanaka, a fangirl who doesn't really take being a ninja seriously, spends most of her time making herself look good. The only reason she's included in this group is because of her ability to learn mind techniques from her clan very fast. The other girl was a pink-haired girl and wearing a red dress. Haruno Sakura, another fangirl. She's calmer though, and I think the only reason she is one is because she a major conformist who goes along with the crowd. She is one of the few people in our class who can hold a conversation with the Uchiha because of their parents being friends. Sakura also has close to perfect chakra control, but this is probably because she has close to none. Behind these two was a gray-haired kid wearing brown leather jacket and goggles on his head trying to look up the girls' dresses. Sabaku Kyo. Some exchange student from Suna. I sometimes wonder who gave for him. He's extremely perverted, always looking down girls' shirts, up skirts, and carries treats ICHA paradise like it's a holy book. I've heard rumors that he has some control over magnetism. Naruto eyes then landed on a green-haired girl wearing formal robes, Kazama Kagura, one of the most arrogant people I've ever met and tied for Rookie of the Year. Don't get me wrong, she can back up her words because of her high alignment to wind techniques, but she orders people around, but she's nothing like her father, who is humble and caring to everyone. On the other side of the room he saw a girl with black hair wearing blue robes and a sword next to her desk. Himura Yukina, her father is the top swordsman in this village, but I swear this girl is bipolar. In class and everywhere else she's kind and considerate, even one of the few people who takes time out of their way to hang out with Hyuga Hinata, but you challenge her to a fight she becomes sadistic and merciless and won't stop until she's won. I like that in a person. Next to her was a girl with blue hair and white eyes wearing a big jacket. Hyuga Hinata, an extremely shy girl who just happens to be heiress to one of the three big clans in Konoha. She wields the Byakugan, but unless she grows a backbone her clan has a good chance of going into civil war. Behind them was a boy wearing sunglasses and white coat with a high collar, Aburame Shino, a kid who I've never seen speak more than a couple of words. He's also very creepy. I don't know what exactly his techniques, but he does seem very protective of insects. 2 seats next to Shino was Inuzuka Kiba, who was wearing his hoodie and had a small white dog laying across his head. Dog breath. This kid's bark is much louder than his bite. He may be good with his taijutsu and clan techniques, but compared to me he's about as much a puppy as the one on his head. Lastly is a boy wearing a blue shirt with a big collar and hair shaped similar to a chicken. Uchiha Sasuke. He might be the strongest one in this class other than me and is also tied for Rookie of the Year. He's arrogant but nowhere to the degree Kagura is. I heard he used to be very outgoing before the massacre of his clan, which only left 3 survivors, Itachi, his mother and himself, but now he talks to only a few people and spends most of his time training. I sympathize with him a little bit because I went through the same thing, but unlike me he has someone for him. After that last thought, Naruto looked back at the front and took the last sip of his juice, and thought, might as well go to sleep because the crap Iruka-sensei is spouting off won't help for crap. Hours later, end of class. Naruto, wake up, you need to hear this too. Screams Iruka as snickers are heard all around the room. Naruto opens his eyes up and Iruka continues, now class, tomorrow is going to be our graduation class and I want each and everyone to pass, so study hard. Also I hope each and every one of you shows up for the test. At the end, glaring at Naruto, who just glares back. Dismissed, and every one of the students gets up and starts to leave the classroom when Iruka's eyes look sadly at Naruto, who climbs out the window. That boy has so much potential and he wastes it. I remember the day he joined the academy. Flashback. Iruka looked out the window and sees the leaves changing and faces the class. Today we're going to have a new student and I want all of you to be on your best behavior, and that means you, Kiba, who just stopped fidgeting with something and looked with full attention to the front of the room, and the vest wearing Chunin begun his lecture on the chakra. A little time passed by and the door slides open revealing a boy with red hair and cold gray eyes wearing a black shirt and jeans. Iruka, now facing the boy, smiled at him. "Why don't you introduce yourself?" The boy nodded and faced the class, bowed and said, "My name is Naruto." Sasuke looked at the boy with a little bit of anger and fear in his eyes as he saw the symbol above his eyes. Another boy in the back yells out at him, "Hey, what your surname?" Naruto looked up and stated firmly, "None of your concern." Kiba then took the chance to try and be funny. "Come on guys, Naruto here is probably from some weak no-name clan, or he's an orphan and he's probably trying to be cool to add mystery to himself," causing laughter to spread throughout the room. Naruto just scowled at him and Iruka told him to take any seat he wants. Naruto chose one near the back and just stared coldly at Iruka, who shuddered a little and continued with the lesson from earlier. Flashback end. Next day, Naruto got out of bed, got dressed in his usual attire and was off to the academy. "If I pass this, I'll be one step closer to what I really want." He looked around, not really seeing, and stops when he sees a woman and a small boy. All of a sudden the kid trips and starts crying while the mother picks him and rocks him back and forward, telling him everything will be alright. The boy stops crying, smiles, and the two of them leave. The redhead boy then looks down at the black cross around his neck and thinks sadly, "Mother," and then he is overcome with rage, looks down the road where he sees the academy and runs in the opposite way to some training grounds. At the academy, "I guess he's not coming after all," thought Iruka sadly before putting on determined face and tells the class, "The exam starts now." Late in the evening in Hokage Tower, a black shadow was all could be seen as a figure dropped below from the ceiling and chopped the back of the two Anbu guards' necks, effectively knocking them out. The figure then takes off the black mask, revealing it to be Mizuki, an academy teacher with silver hair, and picks up the scroll that the Anbu were guarding, thinking, "This was too easy, but hey, I am not complaining, Orochimaru-sama will be pleased," before rushing out. Around the same time, Naruto takes a small towel and wipes away the sweat and the blood he got on his hands from punching the training post. He then looks up at the sky and sees it darkening, shrugs his shoulders and says to himself, "Well, I guess I missed the test. Oh well, I'll try next time. It's not like I go to class anyway." As he walks on the trail to his apartment, he looks at the apartments and sees various shinobi scattering everywhere. Naruto, wanting to know what's going on, goes to the woods where he hears a lot of yelling. As he makes his way through a clearing, he sees Mizuki, a teacher with a Fuma shuriken in his hand, yelling at a heavily injured Iruka who's lying against a tree. The redhead gets a little closer and hears, "You don't get it, Iruka. With this I can receive power that the fools in this village can only dream about, and since you found me, it's time to die." Mizuki then throws the shuriken at full force, aiming to kill, and Iruka closes his eyes, waiting for the end. Iruka then opens his eyes to see someone in front of him with a kunai in hand staring down the angry Mizuki. "Good evening, Mizuki-sensei. Why are you attacking Iruka-sensei on a night like tonight?" says the person in front of him. Naruto, the Chunin, realizes before he drifts off into unconsciousness. Naruto looks back to see his sensei down and out and looks back and sees the scroll on Mizuki's back. "Oh, so you decided to turn traitor? Well, I guess it's my place to stop you, and I never did like you anyway." As the redhead kicks off the ground at high speed and punches his ex-sensei right in the face, knocking him into the tree, and before he can get up kicks him in the chest and knocks him harder into the tree, knocking the scroll off his back. "TCH, that was fast. I at least expected a little challenge," says Naruto as he picks up the scroll and turns to leave, but hears a voice. He sees Mizuki standing and swaying with a vial in his hand. "You brat, are you talking down on me? I am going to wipe you and your mark off the face of the planet." "Behold the power of Orochimaru-sama," yells Mizuki as pulls the cork off the vial and downs the entire thing. Mizuki's body then began to get bigger and his shirt starts to rip because his chest becomes broader and his face turns into that of a tiger's. Author note: just think of him from that stupid filler. He then charged forward, backhanding the gray-eyed boy through a tree, effectively knocking over the tree. Damn, that hurt. Now where the hell did he go, though, Naruto, as he spit some blood out of his mouth. Just then Mizuki appeared in front of him and launched a flurry of punches that Naruto attempted to block but still got injured from, thanks to the sharp claws where the traitor's hands used to be. "This is great. If this power is just for a mission, I wonder what my reward will be for bringing the scroll," howled Mizuki with maniacal laughter. Naruto, with his now torn shirt and dropped to one knee, reached up to the cross around his neck and thought, "TCH, Who thought that I would ever have to reveal my true strength to someone like him? Hey Mizuki, you should be glad you'll be the first person I ever used my full strength against. And he pocketed the cross into his pocket. Moments later, Silver Chakra danced around him, blowing off the remains of his shirt and changing his appearance. Where red hair once was now silver, gray eyes were now red, and his canine teeth were now elongated. Mizuki then looked at his opponent's transformation and yelled out, "It doesn't matter what the hell you did, the power I have is unstoppable," and rushed forward with his hand made to remove Naruto's head, only to be stopped when the boy's arm reached out, grabbed him and threw him back. Naruto then disappeared and reappeared in front of the Tiger Man, held his palm out in front of him and said, "Know your place, bloody cross." After those words were spoken, all the blood from the now silver-haired boy gathered to his palm, formed the shape of a cross and darted forward, going through the Tiger Man's chest that dropped down to the ground. Naruto then took the cross out of his pocket and put it back around his neck, causing him to turn back, when he felt something at his pants. "What the hell are you?" said the Tiger Man, obviously in pain. "Methuselah," Naruto said with cold eyes, and with a kunai in his hand cut off Mizuki's head. Naruto then picked up the scroll, sat next to the tree where Iruka was unconscious, summoned some juice and waited for his teacher to awaken. Sunrise. Iruka opened his eyes, slowly smelled blood, and quickly turned his back and forward to see the corpse of his ex-colleague and Naruto shirtless, sipping some juice, with the scroll next to him. Iruka got up, clutching his shoulder, and said weakly, "Did you stop him?" The redhead boy just nodded slowly, and Iruka told him to close his eyes. He then told him to open them, and shirtless boy say his teacher without his headband on, and he felt something against his own forehead. Iruka then smiled largely at Naruto and said, "Congratulations Naruto, you graduate." The boy then looked up at the rising sun and smiled a true smile and thought, "Soon Shin vengeance will be mine." As you all know, yesterday one of our greatest treasures, the Forbidden Scroll, was stolen. We are here to discuss how this happened and how to prevent it from happening again, the Sandaime said to his fellow councilman. The Shinobi Council, which is directly below the Hokage, is comprised of the clan heads of the major clans, the Kazama, Yamanaka, Aburame, Inuzuka, Himura, Nara, Uchiha, Hyuga, and the Haruno clan, as well as the former Hokage, his former teammates Kaharu and Homura, and a former contender for the rank of Sandaime, the Warhawk Danzo. The council has the power to bring up important issues to the current Hokage attention, determine salaries for the shinobi, decide punishments and bounties for missing nins, and stop a decision made by the current Hokage if a majority of the council decides on it. This council, however, doesn't have any power over the civilian side of the village. There is another council for that, comprised of prominent civilians and people who are elected there. This council handles taxes on the normal people and other things similar to that. Danzo, a man missing an arm and bandages covering his right eye with a stoic, speaks first. "What I want to know is how a mere Chunin was not only able to sneak into the tower undetected but was able to knock out 2 elite Anbu and get out with the scroll." Shikaku Nara spoke next with the same bored tone as his son. "If I am not mistaken, in the report that the boy gave there was a mention that Mizuki said something about his power coming from Orochimaru, which can be responsible for him able to get the scroll." He then paused to take a breath. "If Orochimaru is able to make shinobi with the power to take out Anbu, we should mark him as a higher priority than before." Kaharu, the former teammate of the Sandaime, replies, "That's a very good point, but what should we do about strengthening the security not only in the tower but all over the village, because if word gets out there will be more attempts?" "I have a solution to that. We can revive my root program and put them in charge of guarding strategic points of the village," said the one-eyed man. After hearing this, Shuza Akamichi slams his hand down on the table. "The root program was shut down for good reason. You turned all those kids into emotionless tools, but this would also give you more leverage and power here on the council." Anger present in his voice. Homura, an aged old woman, speaks next. "Danzo, you bring this up every meeting. We are not reviving root. But there is another issue I would like to bring attention. How was an apparent dropout of the academy able to defeat some who was 2 ranks above him?" There was then murmurs and whispers amongst the room until a beautiful woman with black hair spoke. "Perhaps the mark above his left eye really does give the bearer dark powers. We should keep him confined to the village and have Anbu watch him." Hiyashi looked at her with his white penetrating eyes. "Don't let your own fear cloud your judgment. There is no proof that the bearer of the pentacle has any connection to being dark ninjas." Just because the majority of the ones having it have turned out to be missing nins, there have also been cases in history where the marked ones have done great good. I have seen this boy for myself, and from my observation he is nothing like Shishui. Motoko then gets up forcefully out of her seer with her eyes now the crimson hue of the Sharingan staring at him. How dare you tell me my fears are unfounded? You aren't the one who lost their whole clan. That monster killed everyone save me and my sons. Natsumi Haruno got up and took her best friend by the shoulders, sat her down and told her something to get her to sit down. She still had her eyes active. I'm sorry for my outburst, but I still want change my decision about this. There's no way a kid that age should have that much power. Kenshin Himura looked at her with a smile and, I disagree with you on that note, Uchiha-san. Why didn't Itachi become a Chunin at the age of 10? Motoko, who just heard these words, had the decency to blush. Itachi was top of his class where he paid attention and absorbed all of the knowledge that was given to him. Sasama Kazama was the next to speak. I think Naruto is a good boy, a little disrespectful when he comes to visit Arashi-kun. But I really don't think he would harm anyone in the village. Inochi Yamanaka then says, Hey Shibi, you've been quiet this whole time, what do you have to say? Now with all eyes on him, the Aburame spoke in an emotionless tone. While I am a little worried in how the boy gained power, I believe that Sandame-sama has an answer to that. All of the shinobi present then turned to see the old man with a knowing smile on his face. You're right as always, Shibi-kun. What do you all know about Naruto's attendance record? Most of the councilmen had confused looks on their faces, and Sume Inuzuka answered. From what my son tells me, he's never in class, always off somewhere else. Exactly, while all of your children have been in class, Naruto-kun has been off training and honing his skills. The flaw of the academy is that while it gives you the knowledge to be a shinobi, it doesn't really give you the practical skills necessary. Now that this topic is taken care of, I'd really like to get back to the matter at hand, the village's security. The former Hokage said. With that, the council went back to arguing about what to do with the village. Ichiraku ramen shop, same time as meeting. So then you cut Mizuki's head off, said an awe-stricken Konohamaru wearing his helmet and scarf around his neck. Naruto just nodded as he calmly sipped his ramen. Wow, you are the coolest, Nissan, with admiration in his voice. They then paid their bill and started to walk to the academy with Konohamaru chatting the entire way there. Over the years, Naruto has been going over to the Sarutobi household for dinner. At those times, Konohamaru would always talk to Naruto and they developed a brotherly bond. Hey Nissan, where do you have to go now? The scarf-wearing boy said. Naruto in a bored voice said, I had to go get my picture taken for my portfolio or else they won't let me be a ninja. Okay Nissan, see ya, as he runs off seeing his two friends. He's a good kid, one of the few I like in this village, thinks the redhead as he turns and goes to the tower. Photography room in the tower. Okay, sit still like that. Yes, that's good, now face the camera. You can smile if you want to. You know what, don't smile, just do what you're doing, said the cameraman who was setting up the shot. Naruto, who was sitting in a chair, was hunched over with a really aggravated look. I don't understand why we even have to get these done. If we're ninja, wouldn't be better to not have everyone know what you look like? The camera flashed and came out the back of the camera as the man looked at it. That's strange, let me try it again, and another flash went off. No, that didn't work either, maybe it's the camera. Hey kid, you stay put while I get replacement camera. The man came back, set up the camera and tried again. What the hell is wrong with this? And he starts repeatedly clicking away at the top of the camera, making flash after flash, sending all the photographs on the floor. Naruto, now with a vein throbbing on his forehead, gets up and looks at one of the photos. In the photo, all he sees was his black trench coat, his black shirt and pants. With a sweat drop down his head, he thinks, crap, I forgot that my clan doesn't see their own reflection, that's why we always got portraits done. Photographer-san, I have a condition that doesn't allow myself to get photographed. Causing the photographer to stop pressing away at the button and look at the vampire boy. Well, that's a problem then, but don't worry, I'll be right back with the answer. He left and after a few moments hands Naruto a piece of paper. Naruto looks at the paper and sees a stick figure wearing a very bad drawing of the clothes he has on. The vein on his forehead returned and he yells at the man, "You're lucky I don't kill you, but I'll take it," and he leaves. Outside the academy window. Well, here goes nothing, the start of my path, and Naruto climbs through the window. He goes to his seat and gets into his normal seat when he hears a bored Shikamaru. Hey Naruto, didn't you hear this meeting is for graduates only? you didn't even show up. The trenchcoat-wearing boy gives a mocking grin and points at the forehead protector on his right bicep and says, extra credit, but if this is for people who passed the exam, how the hell did you pass, lazy ass? You're always troublesome when you show up, Naruto, and the Nara puts his head down and goes to sleep. Naruto then summons one of his bottles and goes for a drink and ducks when a figure came flying across the room. Sorry about that, Naruto, said Kyo, who was now sporting a black eye, getting up from his crater in the wall. What the hell did you do, man? Said the amused Naruto when he hears from across the room from Yukina, who was shaking her unsheathed sword. You ever try to touch my thigh on your way up the stairs again, and a bruised face will be the least of your worries. You'll never change, Kyo, Naruto said, shaking his head. Kyo, who is now standing next to Naruto, asks, so who do you want on your team? Naruto, who thought for a second, replied, I don't care as long as it's no one weak. You? Kyo scanned the room really fast, got a perverted grin on his face and said, I don't care as long as both of them are girls, so I can follow in the footsteps of the great Jiraiya-sama. After this proclamation, every female, including Hinata, sent killer intent at him, who didn't seem to notice. A poof was then heard in the front of the room and Iruka yelled for everyone to sit down. Okay everyone, here are your team assignments. Team 1 will be. Naruto just tuned him out until he came to the people with any potential. Team 6 will be Sabaku Kyo, Kazama Kagura, and Himura Yukina, and will be led by Inuzuka Rin. The gray-haired boy then yelled out with tears in his eyes and bowing repeatedly in front of an orange book, yes. Fate has smiled upon me. I not only get 2 of the hottest girls in class but also a woman as a sensei. I will make you proud, Jiraiya-sama. The boy's 2 teammates then send an immense amount of killer intent at the oblivious boy and everyone else in the room to sweat drop at his antics. Okay. Now back with the assignments. Team 7 will be Uchiha Sasuke, Haruno Sakura, the mentioned girl yelled yes, take that Ino pig, and Naruto will be led by Hitaki Kakashi. Sakura then stopped her cheering and had a little fear on her face when she looked at boy who had an emotionless expression. Sasuke thought, Sakura will be fine as long as she doesn't act like a fangirl, but that clan-less Dobi better not hold me back. Great, the Uchiha and the conformist, well this certainly will be interesting, thought Naruto. Team 8 will be Inuzuka Kiba, Hyuga Hinata, and Aburame Shino led by Yuhi Kurenai. Kiba then turned around to Hinata and Shino, Hinata, Shino, we're going to be the best team too, with Akamaru barking while his master was talking. Hinata just blushed and shyly nodded at his words while Shino didn't make any reaction to acknowledge his teammates' words. And finally Team 10 will be Yamanaka Ino, Narashikamaru, and Choji Akamichi, which will be led by Sarutobi Asuma. The blonde girl hearing this shrieks, why does forehead girl get Sasuke-kun and Naruto who's so cute and I get a lazy ass and a kid who can't stop eating? Iruka, who ignores this, says, well you all have to wait here for your new senseis, and poofs away. Now over time people would come in and pick up the teams, and then there were only 2 left, teams 6 and 7. Then a woman with brown hair and a white dress with triangle marks on her cheeks came through and said, Team 6 follow me. Oh, and Team 7, I really apologize for my boyfriend's tardiness, I can't do anything about it, you'll probably be here for another hour. Causing said team to groan and glare when Team 6 passed them, and Kagura said, have fun with your loser, Team Uchiha. Naruto then grinned after he whispered something to Kyo, who nodded as he left. Hey Dobi, what did you say to him? Said the curious Sasuke. Shut up Teme and listen, said the still grinning Naruto. Everything was silent until they heard some banging sounds and Kagura's voice, pervert. Touch my chest again and I'll kill you. Naruto then fell over laughing and calmed himself after a few minutes. Sasuke let a low chuckle out, and Sakura wasn't smiling because she doesn't approve of perversion like that. I feel bad for her even though she was mean, inner Sakura. Chaya, what are you talking about? She got what she deserved. An hour later, a gray-haired man wearing a face mask covering one eye came in and sees his new students who were all glaring at him. My first impression of you is that you're all boring. Come up to the roof so we can talk more. Rooftop. Everyone was sitting down and Kakashi then told them, so tell me your name, your likes, dislikes and dreams for the future. Sakura then spoke up shyly and said, Sensei, why don't you go first so we can see how it's done? Okay, my name is Hitaki Kakashi, my likes are Rin-chan, Sensei, and something you 3 aren't old enough to know about yet. Ending with a perverted giggle, Dislikes I don't feel like telling you. And dreams I don't got any, you next Pinky. Actually it's to collect the entire Icha Icha book series and not have it burned by Rin-chan. Sakura, a little mad at being called Pinky, said, "My name is Haruno Sakura. I like a certain boy." Looks at Sasuke. "I like being friends with people and reading. My dislikes are mean people and Ino pig. My dreams for the future are to become a great kunoichi and something else," blushing at the end and looking at Sasuke. Kakashi's thoughts were, she's not very confident in herself, but at least she's not a total fangirl and has somewhat an interest in being a shinobi, you next chicken hair. Sasuke, completely ignoring his nickname, starts, "My likes are my family training, and Haruno-san's cooking. Dislikes fangirls and people who slow me down and a certain someone. My dream, well, it's not really a dream but an ambition. It is to kill Shisui and help my brother revive my clan." Kakashi's thoughts, so he does want to kill him, huh? Well, at least he's not completely obsessed with revenge. I wonder what would have happened had his mother didn't survived. Sakura's thoughts, wow, Sasuke's so cool. Okay, now you last redhead. With this statement all eyes were on Naruto because no one really knew anything about him since he rarely showed up to class, and even then the only one he talked to was Kyo. Naruto, who was sipping out of a bottle, stopped and stared at them. "My name is Naruto. As I said at the academy, I really don't feel like telling you my clan name. My likes are this," holds up the bottle. "My memento from my mother," holds up the cross around his neck. "A certain someone who's not from here, and training. Dislikes a lot of things. My ambition is like the Teme over there to kill someone," saying the last part with a grin promising pain. "So he's like me. Maybe he won't slow me down after all," thought Sasuke. "I hope I am not the one he wants to kill," thought Sakura, a little afraid. "I really wonder who he wants to kill. Maybe Sensei knows." "Oh well, here comes the fun part," thought Kakashi. "Oh yeah guys, you have to have a survival test," said the masked Chunin. "What do you mean test? We already had our last test," said an angry Uchiha. "Oh, they didn't tell you? Well, the passing rate of academy students to become genin is about 44. So meet me at Training Ground 7 tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Don't eat breakfast of course, and remember not to be late." He then disappeared in a swirl of leaves and the rest of them left. Next day, Training Ground 7, 12 o'clock. The three genin hopefuls were all sitting on the ground with Sasuke and Sakura talking about something and Naruto taking a nap with 3 empty bottles next to him. Then in a swirl of leaves Kakashi appeared in a tree branch and said, "Sorry I am late, I got lost on the road of life." The pink-haired girl then stopped her conversation with her crush and yelled, "Liar," waking up Naruto in the process. "Huh, is he here yet?" as he stands up knocking his bottles over and sees Kakashi. Kakashi holds up 2 bells and a timer. "Okay, since everyone is here, your objective is to get the bells before or else you don't get lunch. Whoever doesn't get the bell will get tied to these posts." Sasuke and Sakura's stomachs both rumbled, so that's why he told us not to eat. Naruto looked at his teammates with his hands in his pockets. "Good thing I drank all that blood or else I would be as starved as them." Kakashi then put the timer down and yells out, "Begin," and the 3 genin hopefuls jumped in the trees. Kakashi then stood there for about 30 minutes with a loose stance. One of them will become impatient and attack soon. Just as he thought this, a crimson and black streak flew at him with a punch. It connected with Kakashi only for it to instantly turn into a log. Crap, a substitution, thought the vampire boy as he quickly looked around, spotting his sensei to his left. He once again took off, aiming a roundhouse kick which Kakashi gracefully dodged, only to be followed up by a punch to the head which Kakashi deflected with his wrist. Such strength in his punches, he wasn't lying when he said he likes to train. If was to get seriously hit with one of these it would hurt a lot, thought Kakashi, who was dodging and blocking each of Naruto's relentless assault. They continued this dance of punches and blocks for several minutes until Naruto thrust his fist out at Kakashi slowly. The masked Chunin then took this chance and grabbed Naruto's arm and tossed him over his shoulder at a nearby tree. Naruto then flipped in the air, taking 2 kunai, 1 for each hand, out of his trench coat and kicked off the tree to propel himself at Kakashi's waist for a chance at getting a bell. In the trees, from her position, Sakura watched in awe at the skills Naruto was displaying. Was he always this strong? He could have definitely been a contender for Rookie of the Year. From his position, Sasuke also thought along similar lines. What speed and power! Were my years at the academy a waste? Should I have been training the whole time? Back to the battle. As Naruto was about to cut the bell off the belt loop, Kakashi disappeared, sending Naruto skidding and his coat fluttering as he landed. Damn it, where'd he go now? As he once again scanned the area. He then felt something pulling his leg and he heard, "Earth release." Inner decapitation. Naruto blinked and he was then underground staring at his sensei's pant legs. Well, it was fun playing with you, Naruto, but I have to go play with the others now, as he left Naruto with only his thoughts. So that's the difference between a Chunin and a Junin. I really have to train myself so I can be stronger even in this form, but first I have to get myself out of here. With Sakura, the pink long-haired girl was jumping from tree to tree looking for her crush. If he was able to take out Naruto with ease, my only hope is to find Sasuke-kun and work together with him. Sakura looked forward and saw a bruised and bleeding Sasuke with kunai sticking out of him. "Sakura, help me!" She blinked twice, screamed and then fainted. Behind the tree, Kakashi, whose hand was in a hand seal, said to himself, "Demonic illusion. Hell viewing technique, that was really pathetic. I hope the last one does better." With Sasuke. Sasuke looked around as he just heard a scream. Damn it, that means he got Sakura. This means I am the only one left. I hope my plan works. What plan, Sasuke-kun? As he turned around to see Kakashi doing a sort of eye smile. Sasuke gave a confident smirk and said, "I am different than those other two, you know," and then flashed through a set of hand seals, landing on the tiger seal. Fire release. Great fireball, as a stream of fire came out of his mouth and went toward his teacher. Kakashi was shocked. He barely had time to jump back from the coming fire. Impossible, a genin shouldn't have enough chakra to be able to do a technique like that. As he came out of his shock, he noticed shuriken come from out of the smoke. Kakashi then dodged to the left only to hit a string, sending kunai out from the tree. As he dodged the kunai, he didn't notice Sasuke come out with a punch, hitting him in the face, sending Kakashi back a few feet. "You were right, you are different from the others. I might have to take you serious," said Kakashi, who was staring at the boy in front of him who was smirking. Why is he smirking unless he looks to his left to see the blue-shirted boy lunging at the bell? Kakashi then sidestepped and chopped his neck, knocking him out. The bell then rung and he picked up Sasuke and went to the posts. At the posts, Sakura was tied to the post. Sasuke was awake and Naruto was there, only his coat was covered in dirt and his fingernails were bleeding. Kakashi then looked at them and said, "You guys did horrible. The true meaning of the test was teamwork. None of you guys got that. Why did you think you were put in teams of 3? But sensei, there were only 2 bells. How would we all have passed?" said Sakura. The disappointed copy nin looked at her. "You were supposed to work together to try and get the bell. If you would have, you all would have passed. Naruto, you mindlessly tried to overpower me by yourself. Sakura, you tried to find Sasuke, not even bothering to help Naruto out, who was right in front of you, and Sasuke, while you did better than Naruto by thinking, you still tried to do it alone." He then points to a memorial. Teamwork is the most important part of a mission. If you can't work together properly with teammates, the mission will more than likely end in failure. Ninjas who don't follow the rules are trash, but ninja who don't care about their friends are worse than trash. For what you guys did, you should all be dropped from the entire shinobi program. He looks at the kids, each with a look of disappointment on their face, and throws 2 bento lunchboxes. "You get one last chance after lunch. But Naruto and Sasuke, if you feed Sakura, you all fail," and he disappears. Naruto looks down at his box and hands it to Sakura. "Here, if you have an empty stomach, you won't be of much help." Sasuke's hand was also extended to her. "But you guys, if you get caught, will all fail," the emerald-eyed girl said. As soon as those words were spoken, the clouds above got dark and Kakashi reappeared looking pissed off. "What did I tell you about feeding her?" Naruto with his cold gray eyes glared at him and said, "Ninja who don't care about their team are trash, right?" Sasuke, also with a hardened look, yells out, "We'll help our teammate out no matter the punishment." Sakura, with tears running down her eyes, looked at the 2 boys. "You guys." Kakashi, still glaring, said, "Well, if that's the case, then you pass." All 3 of the now genin looked shocked. "You all pass, you're free to go. You took the lesson to heart and I'm proud of you. Meet at the bridge at 10 o'clock and don't be late." Sasuke then cut Sakura down and they started to walk away when Sakura asked, "Hey Sasuke-kun, do you want to come over for dinner?" Sasuke then shrugged his shoulders and said, "Depends what she's cooking." Naruto took one look at his sensei and said, "I just want to say thank you for helping me all those years ago," and turned around walking away. Kakashi looked at the crimson-haired boy and then at the memorial stone, so he remembered that Hey Obito, the future looks interesting Then with a perverted glint in his showing eye. You think Rin-chan will do page 66 of Icha Icha with me? In the Junin Lounge. The Junin Lounge is a place where Junin can hang out after missions, between them or if you just feel like showing up. It is filled with red couches and chairs with a table and deck of cards as well as a soda machine. There are two major events where all of the Junin gather in the lounge, one of them being the annual poker tournament where if you win you get a ton of money, and the other is after the Genin graduation exam to hear the stories. Anko, the purple-haired snake charmer who likes to wear provocative clothing, was telling her story. Well, I brought them to Training Ground 44, told them the nickname and they almost shit themselves. I then told them that to pass they have to stay conscious for 2 hours. They didn't quite get it until I said one of my snakes at them, making the girl faint and the two boys screaming out of the forest like little girls, causing everyone in the room to laugh. Rin, who was sitting on Kakashi's lap, spoke up trying not to laugh. That wasn't very nice, Anko-chan, you didn't even give them a chance. Anko shrugged. I didn't want a Genin team, I only give the test cause I am forced to. What about your team, did they pass? Rin blushed. Yeah they did, I gave them the bell test that sensei gave my team. This caught everyone's attention, shocking everyone in the room because they didn't think anyone at the current academy could pass the test. Kakashi was just smirking. Boy, won't they be surprised when they hear my story then. Ibiki curiously asked, I heard you have Kaguraheim on your team, she barely works with anyone, how did they pass? Well, she is on our team as well as the Himura girl and a really perverted kid named Kyo who kept trying to look up my dress. Rin said, I'll kill that kid, thought Kakashi angrily as he gripped the edge of the sofa. Elsewhere, Kyo sneezed in the tree looking into the woman's hot springs. Some hot girl must be thinking about me. Back at the lounge, Rin continued, I then told them they had to beat me up to get the bells. Then Kyo raised his hand and said sorry I don't hit girls, which pissed off Kaguraheim who started yelling at him. I said it's fine and he went to go sit by a tree. I started the test and Kaguraheim didn't bother to hide and sent blades of wind after me attempting to catch me off guard, but she failed and got tired after a while. I then went to go find Yukina who charged at me with her sword. She definitely has the making of a fine swordswoman, but she needs more practice, because I easily overpowered her with a kunai. Rin took a breath, then Kaguraheim, apparently hearing about the test from her father, and got Yukina where they discussed a way to get Kyo to join them. They found him at the tree reading that disgusting novel Kakashi-kun used to read. They told him that the only way for them to pass is for them to all work together. Kyo still said no, he doesn't hit women, which Kagura smacked him over the head, telling it's not a time to be chivalrous. Rin blushed again. Yukina lifted her kimono a little bit, showing a bit of her upper leg, getting both of the other two's attention. She then told Kyo he doesn't necessarily have to hit her but keep her still, and then she smacked them with the back of her sword and told him she will never do that again. He agreed and they eventually got the bells by Kyo holding me still with a hug, Kagura cutting the bells from my belt and Yukina using her quick speed to pick them up. Ibiki chuckled a little. Wow, an interesting story. Are there any others that actually passed their teams? Kurenai, Asuma and Kakashi all raised their hands, shocking everyone, even Rin, about Kakashi. Maida Guy, the eccentric great jumpsuit wearing man, broke out of his stupor first. Yash, my eternal rival, finally has a team, I must see them to see if they compare with mine. Kakashi looked over at him. You say something, Guy? Sending Guy into a rant about how hip his eternal rival is. Rin looked at her one-eyed boyfriend with brown puppy dog eyes. Pretty funny considering her clan uses dogs. Come on Kakashi-kun, you never pass a team, you got to tell us about your team. Kakashi looks at her and tells her hell go last because you always save the best for last. Asuma, who took a puff of his cigarette, looked over there. Basically I just passed them no test and went to a barbecue. I'm planning their teamwork to be just as great as the first Inoshika-cho. The woman known as Kurenai smacked him upside the head and muttered, lazy ass. I gave my team a test that involved getting out of a somewhat complex genjutsu. It might have been too easy considering their skills, what with the bugs, Byakugan, and enhanced smelling. It's your turn now Kakashi. Kakashi gave an eye smile and retold the others the events of Naruto, Sasuke, Sakura passing his test. So they passed with pure luck. Oh well, now you're stuck with a team that sucks, says Anko, who had a mocking smile on her face. Next week, This is Sasuke at point A. This is Sakura at point B. This is Kakashi at point D. Where are you, Naruto? Naruto was behind a tree staring at an orange cat. HN, he said into the headset. No, Naruto, you're supposed to say you're at point C, Sakura said tiredly. Can I kill the cat? This is the third time this week we've had to chase it down, said the irritated gray-eyed boy. Naruto, as much as we all hate this cat, we can't kill it because it belongs to the daimyo's wife, Kakashi explained to the boy. Fine, but if we get this mission again it's getting skinned alive, said Naruto. All four of them rushed the cat and eventually caught it and brought it to the daimyo's wife. Thank you so much for bringing back Tora, said the grateful woman who was currently crushing the cat's spine in a bear hug. Sasuke looked at the cat. Maybe that's the reason it keeps running away. With pitying eyes, Sakura also looked, poor kitty. Naruto, however, was laughing maniacally to himself. That's right, crush it, making everyone around him take a few steps back. Outside of the tower. Come on guys, we have to go get another mission, Kakashi told his team as they walked up the stairs. If we get another D-ranked mission I'm gonna kill you, growled out Naruto. I agree with the Dobi, for once those missions don't teach us anything, said the Uchiha as he smirked, giving Naruto his nickname as said boy glared at him. I am sorry, Genin aren't permitted to have above D-ranked missions because they are supposed to build teamwork up. Kakashi tried to explain but was interrupted by the loud voice of Kiba coming down the stairs. That last C-ranked mission was kick-ass. Did you see the way I took out all those bandits single-handedly? You didn't do that much work, Kurenai-sensei took out the majority of the bandits herself, came the monotonous reply of Shino as Team 8 passed Team 7 on the way down the stairs. All three members then turned around and sent killer intent at Kakashi, who was rubbing the back of his head. So how about we go get a C rank then? In the tower. Hokage-sama, can we please have a higher ranked mission? We aren't learning anything from the D ranks and all that stuff about them teaching teamwork is BS. The Uchiha tells the blonde-haired man behind the desk. Arashi then started to laugh. It seems as if all the teams are finally to the point where they're getting sick of chasing Tora. At the mention of the cat everyone in the room tensed up and Naruto had an evil aura forming around him. Arashi Teme, if you don't give us a better mission I'm going to rip your throat out, Naruto says, flexing his hand to show he was serious. Sakura then ran up behind him and put her hands over his mouth. Naruto, show respect to him, he's the leader of this village. It's fine if you want a better, the only mission we have available for you guys is to escort and guard a bridge builder back to the country of Wave. Do you still want to take it? Arashi said, still laughing. Sakura nodded. Sasuke replied with an HN. And Naruto looked at him with his cold gray eyes, showing him there would be pain following him if they weren't given the mission. Okay, send him in, the Yondaime yelled to the door on the other side of the room. Everyone looked to the door and in came an old man with straw hat on his head, glasses on his face, wearing dirty gray clothes and a sake bottle clutched in his hand. The man, who was clearly drunk, took a glance over the team. These brats are the ones who are supposed to protect me. They don't even look like they could beat up a fly. Especially the kid with the trench coat, slurring his words. As soon as those words left his mouth a kunai and a shuriken flew towards him. The kunai hit his sake bottle, shattering it and sending the rest of the sake to the floor and the shuriken right above his hat. The bridge builder, trembling in fear, traced the direction the projectiles and sees the red-haired boy with an apathetic look and an outstretched hand. Naruto then put his hands in the pockets of his coat and walked toward him. When he passed him he whispered, "Call me weak again and the next time I'll aim for you, your heart." Before walking out the door he snapped his fingers and the hat on the mont's head split in half. I am really sorry for his behavior, I'll talk to him tomorrow. We'll meet you in front of the gate at around 6, said the copy nin before he disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving an embarrassed Sakura and slightly smirking Sasuke. The gate. Next morning, Naruto in his regular attire walks up to the group composed of a tired Sasuke, a sober bridge builder and an aggravated Sakura. The bridge builder then made his way over to Naruto and extended his arm. I'm really sorry about how I treated you yesterday, my name is Tazuna. Naruto shook it and said, HN, and took a bottle out of his coat and started to drink. They waited for another hour and Kakashi proofed above them. Sorry I am late, a black cat crossed my path. Liar! Sakura yelled at him, causing Tazuna and Sasuke to wince in pain. Naruto took the earplugs that he had in out and smirked, seeing the two's pained expressions. Bakas, they should have come prepared. Kakashi then jumped down and they left the village. Somewhere outside of the village. The trip to the wave was pretty quiet. Sakura attempted to start multiple conversations with her squad members, each of them ending in failure. Sasuke was just silently looking forward. Kakashi had a book out and was reading, giggling as he turned pages, and Naruto, who was walking beside Tazuna, was drinking out of his bottle. "Hey, you know what, this is my very first time out of the village. What about you guys?" said Sakura, who had a big smile and was looking at all the trees. Sasuke looked at her with a sad smile. "I haven't left since the massacre, but we used to visit other villages." Naruto then said in between a sip, "I was born outside the village and came of my own choosing." Sakura, who was now curious, asked, "Really? I thought you were from our village. Where are you from?" Naruto just gave her a look that said he didn't want to talk about it. Tazuna then looked at the bottle Naruto was drinking. "Hey brat, what are you drinking?" Naruto shrugged his shoulders and said, "Blood." Tazuna laughed and smacked him hard on the back. "You're funny, if you don't want to tell me you don't have to." Which caused Naruto to glare at him. "No really." But he was interrupted by Sakura. "Hey Tazuna-san, why don't you tell us about Wave Country? Doesn't it have a shinobi village of their own?" Tazuna shook his head. "No, we don't have any shinobi, that's why I had to go to Konoha. As for our country, it's an island where everyone is poor because of our limited way to get goods, but if the bridge is completed we can make a better income." They continued to walk for a while when they passed a puddle. As soon as they passed it, two figures jumped out of the puddle near them. The two men, who each had on a giant claw on and a chain connecting the two of them. They both charged Kakashi and shred him to pieces, shocking Tazuna and scaring Sasuke and Sakura, while Naruto gathered chakra to his hands and whispered, "Chakra claws." Chakra then surrounded his hands and took the shape of very sharp claws. "Hey brother," the one on the left said. "Yeah, let's finish him off fast so we can get rewarded." The demon brothers then leapt at Tazuna, who still hadn't come out of his shock. Sakura got in front of him quickly with a kunai in her shaky hand. The brother on the left brought his hand down to kill her, but Sasuke appeared in front of him and threw a shuriken at the chain, nailing it to a tree. Sasuke followed up with a kick to the face, sending one of the brothers at the same tree, and then put the man in a lock, holding his arms back. Naruto then ran at the brother on the right and thrust his right through the man's chest and put his hands around the man's heart. The man coughed up blood and was about to bring his claw down to try and free himself when he looked at the boy's cold gray eyes. "Die," the boy said with little care in his voice as his chakra claws pierced the man's heart, spraying blood onto the red-haired boy's face. Naruto then took his hand out of his chest and threw the man at the tree next to his brother. "Gozu," the other brother cried out, looking at his brother's fallen form before looking back at Naruto, who was casually flexing his hands trying to get the blood off his claws. "I'll kill you, you monster." Maizu, the other brother, then overpowered Sasuke and began a fury-filled charge at Naruto. Naruto, seeing this, got in crouching position, prepared to defend himself, when Kakashi appeared before the man and put his head into a headlock, knocking him out. Kakashi then looked at Tazuna with a serious face and said, "We need to talk. Those were missing nin from Kirikage, known as the Demon Brothers, and they shouldn't have shown up for a C-rank mission." The bridge builders sighed and looked at the team. "A while ago a man named Gato came to our country and he took control of everything. He started smuggling rings and drug trafficking through the country and has isolated our already island nation into even." Kakashi then spoke up. "You don't mean Gato as in from the shipping company?" "The very same, because he controls all the boats that come to and out of the country. There is no way for us to make any income. That's where the bridge comes in. If we can build it, then he won't have any control over us, so he wants to stop me." Kakashi sighed. "Well, since this is clearly a higher mission, I don't think we can continue anymore, since the next one they send after us will be at least Chunin level. I'll leave it up to my team to decide what we do." Naruto just said, "I don't really care what we do as long as I don't have to chase the goddamn cat around." Sasuke had a determined look on his face. "If we continue, we'll have a higher chance of fighting someone stronger, and I'll also be able to get more powerful, so I'm in." The pink-haired girl had a really scared look on her face and thought, "There will be stronger ninja, so that means I could die. But I would be disappointing Sasuke-kun, and also Naruto might kill me. I think we should also continue," she said in a low voice with her head down. Tazuna now had tears running down his face and hugged Sakura. "Thank you. You guys are really heroes. With you, Wave has a chance." Kakashi sighed and took out an orange book and started walking. Well, I guess it's decided, then we're going to continue. The only good part about this is that I finally get to read the new book without getting hurt. Later on, near the country of Wave, as Team 7 got off the boat, they took notice of the landscape around them. The trees looked rotted and it was really misty and hard to see anything. Sakura was tired and asked to rest, which everyone agreed to. She then spoke up, "How much longer do you think we have till we get there?" Tazuna spoke up, and then they started to have a conversation which Sasuke also joined in. Naruto, who was sitting in a tree above them, saw something move and felt some chakra coming from a bush near them and threw a kunai that was concealed in his coat at it, making a white snow rabbit pop out. Sakura, who ran over and grabbed the rabbit, looked up at him and started yelling, "Hey idiot, why the hell did you do that for? Are you trying to be cool? Only Sasuke-kun can do that," causing the mentioned boy to sweat drop. Great, she's in a fangirl mood. Kakashi got a closer look at the rabbit. Wait a second, this rabbit is white, which means it's been raised in captivity. Shit, it was used as a replacement. Get down, he cried, pulling Tazuna down with him while Sasuke grabbed Sakura. As soon as those words were spoken, a giant sword flew through the air just above them, embedding itself in the tree Naruto was sitting in. The boy having jumped out of the tree moments before. The team who had just gotten up traced the direction of the sword to see a tall man with bandages on his face with his arms crossed. The man then started to laugh. "Crap, I missed, and I was hoping it would have been over instantly. Now I actually have to try." Kakashi then put his hand to his covered eye, unveiling the Sharingan. Zabuza, the demon of the mist, criminal of Kiri. Zabuza, who had now recovered his sword, also spoke. "Copy Nin Kakashi, known to have copied over 1,000 techniques with that eye. This will be fun." Sasuke looked at his sensei in confusion. Why does he have the Sharingan? The only ones who should have it should be Itachi, mother, that bastard Shisui, and myself. Eventually, could he be an Uchiha? As both men were staring at each other, they were both exuding immense amounts of killer intent. The genin each had different thoughts about the power. Sakura, who was on the ground covering her eyes, "I'm not ready for this. I should have said no, this is too much for us." Sasuke was trembling in fear as he watched. "This is twice. I've been scared twice today. I need to get stronger, or how can I show the power of the Uchiha and gain revenge?" Naruto wasn't really thinking about the killer intent, but staring at his teammates with an impassive look and fiddling with the cross around his neck. "This is just great. If Kakashi goes down, I have to reveal myself sooner than I expected." The copy nin looked at his students. "Don't worry, I won't let anyone kill my comrades," which seemed to calm the two down. Just then mist appeared everywhere, surrounding and confusing everyone. Those are some pretty big words for someone who should worry more about protecting themselves. Heart, lungs, liver, kidney, brain, clavicle artery, jugular, spine. Which way do you want to die, copy nin? Cackled the man from the mist around them. Zabuza then appeared from the mist and aimed a horizontal slice at Kakashi, who ducked underneath it and stabbed a kunai into the mon's chest, only for it to turn into water and fall down. "Water clone," Kakashi said. Zabuza then appeared behind him and took his massive sword and sliced it vertically, cutting the man in half, only for it to turn into water as well. Kakashi then jumped down from a tree with kunai extended, which Zabuza blocked with his sword. The two then jumped back. "I see you copied it already. That's good, Kakashi. Try and keep up now," Zabuza said as he ran sideways as Kakashi followed him with Sharingan warrior, throwing shuriken at him, only for Zabuza to block them. Zabuza then stood on the lake and flashed through some hand seals, water dragon technique, and some water began to rise and took the form of dragon and crashed down in the direction of Kakashi. Kakashi jumped to the side in the nick of time with his back turned to Zabuza, only to hear Zabuza yell out, "Water prison," trapping Kakashi in a sphere of water and putting his sword on his back with his free hand. Zabuza then began to laugh. "To easy, Kakashi. This mission is done. Those pathetic brats over there have no chance against me. You tree huggers are too kind to go against someone from Kiri." Sakura, who was now off the ground with a kunai in hand to defend the bridge builder, yelled out, "What do you mean? The Kiri Academy should have been the same as ours." Zabuza then laughed again. "Girl, you have no idea what you're talking about. There's a reason the mist is known as the Bloody Mist, because up until a while ago the graduation test was to kill a fellow classmate." Sakura felt sick hearing that, but had to ask, "Why did it stop then?" Kakashi answered her from inside his prison, glaring at Zabuza. "It stopped because a boy not even out of the academy killed every student from his class, and he's standing right here." He then looked at his students. Now you guys, don't you see you have no chance of winning? Take Zabuza and run. Sasuke stood forward. You told us never to abandon a comrade, besides I'm sure you won't let us escape anyway. We'll rescue you for sure. He was thinking along different lines though. Damn it, I can't think of any proper strategy for us to win. If I had my Sharingan it would be a different story. Naruto sighed. I guess I do have to reveal myself after all. The pentacle bearer then reached up for his cross and then looked at Sakura. Wait a minute, I got an idea. He then approached Sakura. Your mother is a med nin, right? She nodded while she and Sasuke cast a confused look at him. Do you know how to walk on water then? She nodded again. Yeah, I do, but if I try to free him it won't do any good. I am not match for him. Chaya, does this idiot want me to get killed? Yelled out inner Sakura. He gave cold smirk. It has nothing to do with that. I have a plan. Come over here. The three genin huddled into a group and the red-haired boy told them his plan on how to free Kakashi. Zabuza watched the team and then looked at Kakashi. Your team stands no chance of freeing you, and even if they do you're running out of breath soon. The genin then broke up with Sasuke, taking out a bunch of shuriken and kunai. I have to say, Dobi, that plan might work. Naruto just glared at him as he ran to another part of the shore with Sakura. Sasuke then stared at Zabuza before throwing a shuriken at Zabuza, to which he brought his sword out to deflect it. He then began to throw more one after another, each being deflected one after another. Kid, that's not going to work. You see my sword, the same thing is going to happen over and over again. Zabuza said. He then took a look at him. Hey, where did the other two go? Sasuke stopped and smirked as he threw one last kunai at him. Zabuza deflected it and then felt a blow to his side and a claw, sending him tumbling and freeing Kakashi from his prison. He got up and saw Naruto floating in the water. Same time as Sasuke throwing projectiles. The trenchcoat-wearing boy heard Sasuke call him a Dobi but ignored it and ran to the other side of the shore with Sakura behind him. They stopped and Sakura was about to go towards the lake when she looked at Naruto. Naruto, do you really think this is going to work? He gave her a nod. It will work, and if it doesn't I still have one last trump card. But remember, this will only work if your weak fangirl arms can manage it. Sakura, who now had a vein in her forehead, went half the distance in the lake between the shore and the demon of the mist. I am not weak, she told herself. Chaya, we'll show him our power, yelled inner Sakura. Naruto then ran towards a tree away from the shore and took a deep breath. He then looked at the pink-haired girl and with all the strength he had ran towards the shore. When he got to the edge he leapt as towards Sakura with his arm out in front of him, his coat fluttering as he approached. Sakura then braced herself, grabbed his arm, spun and used the momentum to send Naruto right at Zabuza, who was taunting Sasuke on the other side. As he approached the man he whispered, "Chakra claws," and once again felt the chakra take the form of claws. He punched the man in the side, cutting his side and sending the man a few feet away, freeing Kakashi. He smirked as he started to swim back to shore. Mission accomplished. Kakashi, who was catching his breath, looked at his student with pride on his face before facing Zabuza again. You may have caught me once, but it won't happen again. Zabuza, who now recovered and was standing again, stared back at his opponent. It seems I was careless. As soon as I take care of you I am going after your brats, starting hand seals. Kakashi also began a set of hand seals mirroring Zabuza, both ending at the same time. Water dragon technique, the both cried. Two water dragons rose from the water and both crashed into each other, sending water everywhere. How the hell did he do that? It's like he knows what I am about to do before I do it. The demon of the mist thought before beginning hand seals again, with Kakashi copying. Stop copying me, you monkey, both of them said. Kakashi finished first, giant waterfall technique. A column of water rose around Zabuza and brought him under as the waves the technique were creating carried him all over the place before slamming him against a tree. Kakashi then threw kunai at his arms and legs, pinning him to the tree. Zabuza looked at Kakashi and weakly spoke, "Can you see the future?" Kakashi took a kunai out and responded, "Yes, your future is death." As he was about to bring the kunai down, several needles embedded themselves in the missing nin's neck. A masked figure jumped down and giggled girlishly. "Well, it seems you're right, Kakashi-san, he did die." The three genin ran over and looked at the fallen man and the masked figure. Kakashi then went and felt for the mon's pulse, finding there was none, collapsed to the ground. Sasuke ran over holding him up, asked, "Is he dead?" and the guy in the mask is, as he looked at the figure with suspicion. The figure let out another girlish giggle as it hoisted the figure around its neck. Thank you, I've been tracking him for weeks, and to your questions he is dead and I'm a hunter nen. Before jumping back into the trees, leaving the genin, the unconscious teacher and Tazuna alone. Tazuna looked at the team and laughed nervously. Well, fun day, hug eyes. All three of them glared at him, causing him to shrink in fear. Well, anyway, my house is only 4 hours away now, so let's get going. Naruto, who got another bottle from his sleeve, walked by and said, for the comment you get to carry Kakashi-sensei. Pointing at the man now on the ground since Sasuke left him there, and the other two genin begun walking to join Naruto. Tazuna then slung Kakashi unconscious arm around his neck and slowly joined them. When this is all over, I am really going to need a bottle of sake. A week later, Naruto and the rest of Team 7 make it to the house about an hour later, with almost all of the members exhausted from the ordeal with Zabuza. The team entered the house and walked into a room where there was a table, some chairs, and the aroma of food coming from a stove where a woman was standing. The woman approached the old man, who was still carrying the unconscious Kakashi around his neck. Father, are these the shinobi who are going to help us stop Gato? Tazuna nodded. Yeah, these guys have already been a ton of help, don't let their age fool you, they saved my life twice already on the way up here. Team 7 then got a better look at her. She appeared to be in her early 20s with flowing black hair and was wearing a yellow shirt, some pants and an apron on. The woman bowed to them. My name is Tsunami and I want to thank you for keeping my father safe. Sasuke was looking in between the two family members. That's your daughter, you don't look or act anything like each other. What are you calling my daughter, ugly or something? Said Tazuna with mock anger in his voice. Sasuke then blushed a little bit and whispered, she's not the ugly one, and besides she doesn't seem like a drunk. Don't worry about anything, we're here to make sure that your country gets back on its feet, spoke Sakura to defuse the situation, and because she was a little proud of what the bridge builder had said about them. Inner Sasuke was howling in her head, she better not make a move on our Sasuke-kun or I'll kick her ass, Chaya. Tazuna then handed Kakashi to Sasuke, still a little upset. I'm not ugly. Sasuke then looked at Sakura and asked, will he be alright? She looked at the copy ninja for a second before answering. I'm not entirely sure, my mother has only taught me control exercises and is only beginning to tell me about different ailments a shinobi can have. Naruto, who was sitting down just staring out the window, chakra exhaustion. Sakura looked at him with shock. How do you know about that? Before examining Kakashi again, Naruto, you're actually right, he does have it. Sasuke smirked, walking over to the chair next to the red-haired boy sitting there sensei down on the chair. Well, what do you know, even a dobi like you gets things right every once in a while. Naruto scoffed. Just because I skipped class doesn't mean I don't know how to read teme. Also, if I'm the dobi, what does that make you? If you know what it is. Sasuke's temper began to rise. Are you starting something, dobi? Naruto looked away from the window and towards the Uchiha. What if I am teme, what are you going to do about it? Sasuke then was about to lunge at him before Sakura grabbed him and laughed nervously. Now isn't the time for this, Sasuke-kun. Besides, we haven't introduced ourselves to Tsunami-san. Sasuke calmed himself down before talking. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. Sakura went next, bowing before Tsunami. My name is Haruno Sakura, it's your turn now, Naruto. My name is Naruto, I don't give out my surname, so you'll just have to deal. Sakura just walked over to him and smacked him upside his head. I'm really sorry about that, he talks like this to everyone, so don't worry about it. Also, do you have anywhere we can stick our sensei until he wakes up? Tsunami nods. Follow me, I'll show you to your rooms, he can stay there until he wakes up. The black-haired woman led them up the stairs and pointed at several rooms. Sakura, you will stay in this room, she said, pointing to a room on the left. Naruto and Sasuke, you will have to share a room, is that okay with you? The two boys looked at each other and snorted and at the same time said fine. Tsunami laughed at this. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you're related, but anyway, your sensei will have this room. Naruto, who was the one holding Kakashi over his shoulder, went into the room and put him down before coming out again. He walked past the group. I'm going to train, so don't disturb me. Sakura was about to say something when a small boy walked into the hall. I don't know what you guys are doing here, but Gato and his men are going to kill you all, he spoke before going into another room in the same hall. Who is that boy? Sakura asked curiously. Tsunami sighed. He is my son Inari, don't worry about what he says, he always talks like that nowadays since the incident. Naruto continued his descent down the stairs after the boy's proclamation with one thing on his mind: if that brat tells me I'm gonna die again, I'll kill him. A week later, Kakashi awoke groggily laying in a bed. Where am I? He thought to himself when memories of his fight rushed back into his head. If Rin-chan finds out me being careless, she'll kill me. He looked around noticing that he was in a house and saw Sasuke sitting next to the bed with a bored expression on his face. Okay, we must have made it to the bridge builder's house, but now I have to train them since the hunter Nin was clearly a fake. He then spoke, startling Sasuke. Sasuke, go and get the rest of the team, I have something to tell you guys. After the team is gathered, they were all either sitting or standing around the bed that Kakashi was in. Well, we're going to start your training since Zabuza is still alive and will probably attack again in 2 weeks, but this time he will probably come with an ally. The hunter Nin told us that he was dead though, said Sakura, speaking for the genin, who all had a look of confusion on their face. Well, of course the hunter Nin would have told you that, seeing that he or she was an ally of Zabuza's and only put him into a near-death state since Senbon rarely kill. Your lessons from your mom should have taught you that much. With a focused look on his face, Sasuke asked, what kind of training are we going to do? Kakashi laughed a little at his student's question. It's chakra training exercise that if you learn how to do it, you can have the potential to learn any technique. At hearing this, both of his male student head popped up with interested looks, while Sakura rolled her eyes since her mother told her the same exact thing when she learned the exercise. Kakashi then grabbed his crutches and walked to the door as best as he could before stopping. Follow me. Outside at the edge of the forest, the injured copy Nin stood in front of his 3 students. Okay, my cute little students, you're going to be learning the tree climbing exercise. Sasuke glared at his sensei. How does climbing trees make me stronger? Naruto, however, knew about the exercise from his reading and watched the Uchiha make a fool out of himself. Sakura, can you show him since I know you know how to it? Kakashi said lazily. Sakura nodded and walked to the nearest tree. She put one foot on the tree and focused chakra to the bottom of her sandal and walked up the base of the tree until she was hanging upside down under a branch. Sasuke-kun, this is what he meant. It's an exercise meant to control your chakra so you don't waste any extra chakra when you do a technique, the pink hair girl lectured to her crush. How do you do it, Pinky? Demanded the pentacle bearer beside Sasuke, who looked down at the ground in shame. Nah, Naru-chan, you got to say please, retaliated Sakura to his Pinky comment. Naruto growled at her, I refuse to say please to you. He then looked at his sensei that was sitting near another tree reading a familiar orange book that Kyo used as his Bible. Kakashi was flipping through pages, giggling every few seconds as he looked at the pictures. I missed this. Jiraiya-sama, you truly are the best. Only to have his trench coat wearing student walk up to him. How do you do the exercise? Pinky won't tell me, Naruto said to Kakashi. The copy Nin yawned. I don't feel like it, go ask Sakura again, she's teaching the lesson. Naruto's sweat dropped a little at this. How the hell did he become a Chunin? He then walked back over there to see Sasuke running at a tree, making it several feet up the tree before slashing it with a kunai and back flipping off before he could fall, and Sakura watching him from a few feet away. He stood next to her with his hands in his pockets and muttered something that she couldn't hear. What was that? I couldn't hear it, she said, putting her hand to her ear. He then muttered a little louder, please. She squealed a little and reached up to pat him on his head. See, that wasn't too hard, was it? Well, all you got to do to perfect this exercise is focus chakra to your feet to stick to the tree. Now say thank you, Naru-chan. She blinked and then realized he wasn't there anymore, but at the tree next to Sasuke, also running up the tree. At least Sasuke-kun said thank you, go over there and punch the teme into the ground, roared inner Sakura. She then walked over to Kakashi. Hey sensei, what do you think I should do now since I already instructed those two what to do? He shrugged before changing a page again. Why don't you accompany Tazuna to the bridge? The pink-haired girl nodded and ran inside, while Kakashi looked up from his book to see his 2 students glaring at each other as they ran up the trees. I'll beat you to the top, Dobi, and then you will see I'm better than you, thought Sasuke as he jumped back again, while Naruto thought along similar lines. Unknown location. The demon of the mist was currently in a bed getting senbon pulled out of neck by the hunter Nin. Geez, Hiku, that last one you pulled out hurt, groaned out the demon of the mist. Hiku took off her mask, revealing a young, very beautiful black-haired girl, and looked at the man in front her and giggled before pulling another one out, causing Zabuza to groan again. Well, it was either near-death state or real death. Which one do you prefer? He then sat up. Ale after the last senbon was plucked. Thanks. Did you get the analysis of the sharing I asked for? She nodded and started twirling the senbon around in her fingers. Yeah, I did. I'll tell you about it later. I barely got it because there were those two really cute boys. The girl in front of him was now drooling a little bit with her eyes closed, imagining about Sasuke and Naruto. The demon of the mist uncharacteristically had a sweat drop roll down the side of his head. Why did my tool have to be a blatant flirt? A door then flew open to reveal a short man with a cane and two thugs for hire, each with swords. If it isn't the so-called demon of the mist, I heard you got beat up by one man and three brats. Ha, I bet I could kill you easily. Gato said as he laughed before approaching the man in the bed. I heard your slut here had to save you. That's pathetic. Maybe I should kill you now and go get someone else to go and kill that idiot bridge builder, the man said as he reached out with his hand to touch Zabuza. Hiku got out of her thoughts at the sound being called a slut and saw Gato going to touch Zabuza. She grabbed his hand and put enough pressure to break his hand. Don't touch Zabuza-sama, you filth. Gato jumped back to the protection of his thugs. You have one last chance, Zabuza, or else I'm not going to pay. You're not getting paid, and keep a leash on your minion. You didn't have to do that. You know, if he would have tried anything I would have killed him myself. Zabuza said to Hiku. She shook her head. That filth doesn't have the right to touch you, Zabuza-sama, and besides, that was also my own personal revenge for him calling me a slut. Hiku got up and walked towards the door when Zabuza called to her. Where are you going? To go get some herbs so you can heal faster, she replied. When she shut the door, Zabuza sighed. Why couldn't she have been a boy? At the Tazuna household, Naruto and Sasuke stumbled in, each with a smirk of accomplishment, and sat across from each other at table, with Sasuke sitting next to Sakura and Naruto sitting next to Kakashi and everyone else scattered randomly around the table. Tsunami served a lot of food and everyone began to eat, with discussions popping up here and there. How far did the two of you get up the tree? Kakashi asked his two students. I'm almost at the top. I don't know about the dobi though. Sasuke said in between bites of his steak. Shut up, Teme, you know that I'm at the same spot you are. You just can't take the fact that the dead last is tied with the Rookie of the Year at something, the Pentacle Bearer stated. Inari then slammed his fist on the table, knocking a couple of plates onto the floor. How can you joke about anything when Gato is going to kill you all? Sasuke looked at the boy. You don't know what you're talking about. I don't plan on dying anytime soon. Shut up, your jokes aren't funny. Why don't you go back to your peaceful village where none of you have ever suffered? I bet you all have rich families and are well liked by everybody with big homes. Inari cried at the Uchiha, who was seething with rage at being told he's never suffered. Tsunami stood up and shouted, that's enough, apologize to these nice shinobi. What none of them noticed is that Naruto had gotten up from his seat and started to make his way to Inari with images flowing through his head. Flashback. A small boy with silver hair, a pentacle over his right eye and blood splattered all over his clan robes, was sitting on a pile of bodies with a big smile on his face. The boy looked down from the pile at the age 7 Naruto, who was wearing the same attire, also with silver hair. Shin, what have you done? Naruto cried in horror. Ne-sama, isn't it great now no one can bother us, Shin said. Naruto just turned around and ran towards the door, stepping on bodies of fallen clansmen. Ne-sama, wait, Shin cried, tripping from his spot since one of the hands grabbed his feet. Flashback end. The current day, Naruto reached out to Inari and grabbed him by the throat, slamming against a wall. Don't you ever tell me that I haven't suffered. I have seen things that would make you want to commit suicide. I'm not the only who has suffered. I may not like the Teme, but he's suffered too. How would you like to come home one day and find out that your entire clan was massacred by your cousin? Naruto shouted at the boy, rage emanating from in waves. Inari was visibly shaking, looking into Naruto's gray eyes. If you think you have it so bad, why don't you go and do the world a favor, go commit suicide? Kakashi now got up from his seat, ready to restrain his student. Sasuke also got up, ready to help, but was shocked at the thought that Naruto actually defended him somewhat. Sakura yelled out to Naruto from her seat. Naruto, stop, he's gotten the point, put him down. The boy with the pentacle above his left eye dropped Inari to the ground and went to the door, slamming it behind him. Inari got up, muttered a quick sorry and ran up the stairs crying. Tazuna looked at the group of shinobi, noticing none of them have visibly relaxed yet. Is what he said true? Kakashi sat down again and sighed. About Sasuke? Yes, that did happen, but no one knows about Naruto. That boy doesn't get close to that many people, and even to those people he doesn't talk to, he's an enigma. Sasuke sat down right after Kakashi with thoughts of Shisui fresh in his mind. When I find you, Shisui, and I will kill you. Naruto, what happened to you? Sakura thought as she took a glance at the door. In the forest, Naruto was hopping from tree to tree, trying to get as far from the house as he possibly could. Stupid brat, bringing up bad memories. The only way for me to relieve my anger now is to train. Naruto jumped down from the trees and landed in a clearing of flowers. He then took off the cross, transforming himself into his true appearance of silver hair and red eyes. With the new control I have, maybe I can finally get that technique to work. The vampire boy thought, taking out a bottle of blood and downing the bottle before he set to work on his technique. Hours later at the clearing, which used to have trees surrounding it now had fallen trees and a few that looked like they were shredded to pieces. Haku wandered into the clearing looking at the destruction and saw Naruto, who had his cross around his neck again and bottles surrounding him, sitting against a tree. Did this boy do this much damage? He's a threat to Zabuza-sama then and has to be dealt with no matter how cute he is. I know you're there and I won't kill you if you come out, Naruto said. Haku walked up to him blushing, looking at the boy's face, so cute. She shook her head right after that thought. No, Haku. He is Zabuza's enemy and we'll have to take care of him eventually. What are you doing, woman, and why are you red? Naruto said, getting a little irritated at the girl not paying attention to him. Haku once again blushed before holding up her basket. Oh, I'm picking herbs for a precious person. Do you have any precious people, Shinobi-san? Naruto eyed her suspiciously. How do you know I'm a shinobi? The girl giggled and pointed at the forehead protector on his arm. Do you, Shinobi-san? Naruto blushed a little bit, forgetting about the protector, and got to thinking, do I have anyone precious to me? Images of the Sandame, Konohamaru, and a smiling little girl with red hair and 9 tails wrapped around her waist popped into his head. She probably thinks I'm dead, so it doesn't count. Yes, I do, Naruto said to the girl who was picking flowers out of the ground and putting them into her basket. She smiled again. That's good, because protecting precious people is where true strength comes from. As Haku started to walk away from Naruto, she decided to have a little fun. By the way, I'm a boy. She watched as his eyes widened, making her giggle at the sight. Just kidding. As his face went back to normal, she put one finger under chin and leaned forward. Or am I? Naruto turned around and walked the other way, not wanting to be confused by the girl any longer, who was still giggling. Is she high? Maybe that's what the herbs are for. Precious people, my ass. A week later on the bridge, Kakashi, Sasuke and Sakura were all sitting on the bridge as the Tazuna and the rest of the workers put things into place. Hey Kakashi-sensei, why did we leave the Dobi at the house again? Is he okay? Said Sasuke as he handed a steel girder to one of the workers. We left him there because he needs a break. He's been up for 2 days straight, and besides, why would you be worrying about him? The copy nin said. Sasuke snorted. It's nothing like that. I just don't want him to hamper our team's power. All of a sudden mist started to gather around the bridge. Kakashi yelled as he uncovered his eye. It looks like it's begun. Sakura, you go guard Tazuna. Sasuke, get ready. In front of them now stood a fully healed Zabuza and the fake hunter Nin. Haku, Kakashi, you have no chance against this time. I know the secret of the Sharingan. Look, even your student knows you have no chance. He's shaking in fear. Zabuza did a quick hand seal, water clone, and an exact replica of Zabuza appeared next to him. Sasuke lunged at the clone and stabbed it in the chest, turning it back into water. I'm not shaking in fear, it's excitement. Zabuza then laughed. Fast. So you haven't been wasting your time. Not fast enough, however. Haku, show him what real speed is. The fake hunter Nin was in front of Sasuke in an instant, grappling with his hands. She then took one of her hands away and went into a set of hand seals. Kakashi just stared in awe. One-handed hand seals, amazing. Yeah, that's her specialty, but she hasn't even showed her bloodline limit yet. Crap, she has one of those. Sasuke might not survive. I got to go help him. As he was about to go help Sasuke, a slash from Zabuza's sword came at him. Don't even think about it, Kakashi. Your fight is with me. As Haku finished her hand seals, she shouted out, Secret technique. 1000 water needles of death. As soon as that was said, hundreds of needles formed in the air and headed in the direction of the both of them. At the last second, both of them managed to jump back. It seems you're better than I thought. I'll show you my own bloodline limit, but since you're so hot, how about I let you go? She said in a serious tone. I'm not running, bring it on, I'll still defeat you. Sasuke, completely disregarding the hot comment, looked at the masked girl with determination, but on the inside he wasn't so sure. So be it, ice, release demonic ice mirrors, she said as a dome of mirrors formed around the two of them. Back at the house, Naruto was tossing and turning in his bed until he finally fell out and onto the floor. He got dressed really fast when he heard a scream coming from outside, and he ran over to his window. On two men were holding Tsunami in an arm lock, and Inari charged them only to get smacked away. Naruto smirked at this. Kid's got some guts after all. I better go save him though before he becomes dead instead of a whiny brat. Down with Inari. The boy got up once again as he was knocked away, tears streaking down his face. I won't be useless again, I'll save you, mom. Tsunami was yelling at him from the arms of one of the men. Don't worry about me, Inari, run. He shook his head. One of the men stepped forward, unsheathing his sword. I'm going to use you as a sharpener for my blade, so prepare to die. Inari closed his eyes as the blade was about to split him in half, but opened them seconds later as no pain came from him but instead from his assailant. Standing in front of him was Naruto with shining claws and his blood-stained trench coat fluttering in the breeze, helping his mom up. As Inari looked for the thugs, he saw them both in the water, dead. Naruto walked up to him and ruffled his hair with a smirk. So you developed hope, huh? You are related to your grandfather. Why don't you go use some of that and spread it? He turned around and started to run for the bridge when he heard something that brought a true smile to his face. We're taking back wave. In the dome, Sasuke dodging left and right, trying to avoid the senbon being hurled at him. He started some hand seals and a grand fireball technique, hit the mirror that Haku was currently in, who only jumped to another mirror at a speed that he couldn't follow. You have no chance, cutie, I moved too fast for you, let's see if you can try and keep up, Haku said as she jumped from mirror to mirror, throwing senbon as she did so. Wait a minute, I saw her that time, Sasuke thought as he caught sight of the fake hunter Nin and had an itch in his eye. That's the Sharingan, I can't take any chances anymore, I'm going to end it now. Oh well, he was fun, gasped Haku sadly as she aimed one at this neck. As the senbon was about to impact, it was deflected by a kunai courtesy of Naruto. What took you so long, Dobi? Said a heaving Sasuke who was covered in needles and bleeding everywhere. Nice job unlocking your bloodline, Teme, Naruto said to his comrade. What do you, the Uchiha was beginning to say until he was cut off by a bunch of senbon going into his neck. Is this the first time you've seen one of your friends? Haku began to say from one of her mirrors with a sad tone, but was interrupted by a dark laughter. I really should thank you for knocking him out, and before you even say you killed him, I see the needles in the same spot as Zabuza. Now I can show my full power, Naruto said as he reached up for his cross. He went through the familiar transformation and was left with his silver hair and red eyes also gaining elongated canines. He took off his trench coat, setting it on the bridge, revealing a black shirt and a seal on Naruto's right wrist. He flicked his wrist and a red scalpel appeared in his hands. The boy then looked up at his opponent, who had drool coming out of her mask. Let's now test the theory, is blood thicker than water? He threw the scalpel at Haku, who had come out of her daze, and retaliated by throwing a water senbon. As the two weapons made contact, the scalpel split the senbon in half and impaled the girl in her shoulder, making her cry out in pain and fall out of the mirror. Stay in your place, you should be honored, you're the first one I'm going to use this technique on, Naruto taunted as he lifted both of his arms up. Hundreds of red scalpels flew from his wrist, surrounding the girl and shredding her clothing and skin to pieces. As the girl fell to the ground, Naruto noticed the girl mask break, revealing the girl from flower clearing. He then walked over and stared at her chest rise and fall. So you were a girl after all, he said to himself quietly. As he continued to stare at her, the heat began to rise in his cheeks. Kyo would probably kill to be in this situation. Naruto then walked over to his trench coat, got his cross out of the pocket and put it around his neck again. He then wrapped the trench coat around the girl's body and lifted it and Sasuke's unconscious form over his shoulders and walked over to Kakashi, who had a Chidori through the demon of the mist chest. The mist cleared and revealed Gato standing there with an army of people. Skip Zabuza charging and Gato's speech cause everyone knows about it. Hey Brat, bring Haku over here for a second, the dying Zabuza whispered from his place on the ground. He carried her over and laid her next to him. He stared at her slumbering face for a second, before calling out to Kakashi, who walked over to him as well. Copy Nin, we both know I'm done here. I want you to do two things for me though. First, I would like you to take Haku with you, and second, I want you to give my sword to the Uchiha kid. Tell him to have it finished though, since I fled before I actually had it completed, Zabuza told his former enemy. The great demon of the mist took one last look at the girl next to him and closed his eyes, signifying that he passed on. Kakashi then covered his eye and looked for his students to see Naruto standing over Sakura, who was lying on Sasuke crying her eyes out. Naruto then took his hand and slapped her upside head and pointed to his neck, which still had needles in it. The girl squalled and plucked them quickly out of his neck, and hugged the boy who was slowly returning to consciousness. Naruto looked down at the scene with disgust. I really need a drink, he thought. He then bit his thumb and dragged it over the seal on his wrist, causing a bottle to appear in front of him, which he started to drink. A week later, two figures stood in front of a stone that was in the shape of a headstone. Naruto looked over to the girl next to him. So he was your precious person, huh? The girl nodded, tears in her eyes. He saved me from a life of being alone. After the bloodline massacres in Kiri, everyone with a bloodline hid it for fear of being killed. That's what happened to my mom. She eventually got married to a farmer and had me. One day I showed my mom my abilities and she slapped me, telling me to hide it from my father, but what I didn't know is that he saw me. The next day he killed my mother and was about to come after me, but I killed him instead. For the next 2 years of my life I lived on the streets, feeling unneeded by anyone, stealing to get by, until one day Zabuza-sama found me and told me I was needed as his tool. I was content as just being that. I didn't care. Naruto scoffed at her. That's pathetic, you have to live for yourself. What are you going to now though? She sniffled again and looked at him in his gray eyes, ignoring his question. Why don't you reveal your true self, Naruto-kun? Is it because where you're from you're persecuted too? He shook his head. It's not that. I'll reveal myself when I'm ready, and if you tell anyone I'll kill you. The girl just giggled nervously and jumped on his neck. I know, I'll go with you guys to Konoha. After all, you like me. Naruto just put her down and looked at her face and said, nope, causing her to deadpan. He's so straightforward. A week later, leaving the town, Naruto stood in front of Inari and ruffled his hair. Keep that hope, if you become a whiny little brat again and I'll kill you. All of Team 7 turned around, waving goodbye to the people of Wave, and started to walk. Hey, aren't we forgetting someone? Sakura said to her teammates. As soon as she finished saying that, a black-haired girl jumped from a tree and landed on Sasuke. Hey there, cutie. Haku then kissed him on the cheek and giggled, helping the boy up. Sakura then glared at Haku. Who does this hussy think she is hugging Sasuke-kun? Kill the bitch, inner Sakura roared. Haku then was about to hug Naruto, who was drinking his juice, when he glared at her with a look that said, touch me and die. Back on the bridge, Tazuna was talking to the people. Those kids will all go far if they're this good, now imagine them in 5 years. They all nodded when a villager yelled out, hey Tazuna, what are we gonna call the bridge? Tazuna got into a thinking pose for a second. Hey, how about the Great Tazuna Bridge, after the great man who built it? All the villagers groaned when Inari piped up. How about the Bridge of Hope, because without that we would have never taken Wave back. Tsunami patted him on the head. I like that. All of the other villagers nodded in response. Tazuna sighed. Fine, we'll call it the Bridge of Hope, but I still think the Great Tazuna Bridge would have been better. The Yondaime stared around the room at newly returned Team 7 plus a girl that he didn't recognize. He was currently listening the debriefing of the mission they were sent on. Sakura and Sasuke were both sitting in chairs in front of his desk, while Naruto was sitting in a window staring at the village. So after that the bridge was finished, we decided bring the girl Haku back with us, since she had nowhere else to go and didn't exactly kill any of our team. Kakashi said to his former sensei, scratching the back of his head nervously. Arashi looked at the girl and glared at his student. Kakashi-kun, your actions on the mission could have been disastrous. After you were first attacked by the Demon Brothers, you should have sent for backup. Also, you made an amateur mistake by getting caught in a water prison by your opponent. That is not befitting of one of the strongest shinobi of our village. Sakura's eyes widened at those words. Our sensei's one of strongest. I mean sure he beat Zabuza who was really strong, but I'm sure a lot of ninja can do that. Yeah right, that lazy-ass pervert can't be so strong, it has to be an exaggeration, Chaya, screamed inner Sakura from inside of her head. Sasuke also shared a look of surprise. If this man is as strong as they say, he can help me beat Shisui. Plus he can train me with my Sharingan since Nissan is too busy and mother has to go to council meetings. He then took a look at a sealing scroll that was in his hands. Speaking of senseis, I need to find someone to help me wield this sword. The Yondaime then continued his lecture, snapping the two out of their thoughts. You're very lucky that your students were able to free you with the plan that Naruto-kun came up with. Said boy only looked towards from the sky to the man for a moment and nodded his head to show he was acknowledged before looking back at the sky, and the Yondaime then shifted his eyes from his student who had his down in shame and to Haku who was nervously shuffling her feet. Enough of this, Kakashi-kun, we have to decide what to do with this young lady. If I'm not mistaken, you are a missing nin from Kiri and are guilty of several crimes including a failed coup d'etat and impersonating a hunter nin. The girl's eyes now had fear in them as she looked into the Yondaime's blue eyes and opened her mouth as an attempt to explain herself, but was cut off when the yellow flash put his hand up. We could send you back to Kiri where they would probably kill you for being an accomplice of Zabuza's. He looked at her, and noticed that her eyes made a quick flash to the door in case she needed to run. He then grinned at her, but we're not going to. Your punishment will be a year probation. Welcome to Konoha. He then threw a forehead protector, which she happily caught. Haku looked at everyone in the room, tears of joy spilling from her eyes, as she looked at the faces of her new friends. Sakura beaming at her. Sasuke smiled slightly at her, and Kakashi eyes smiling at her. She tried to see the red-headed boy's expression but couldn't since he still hadn't looked back from the window. Hear that, Naruto-kun? I get to stay here with you and meet all your other cute friends, she said as she walked over to him still crying. He turned to her and put his hand on her shoulder with an expressionless face. Just don't get in my way. Naruto then faced the Yondaime. If we're done here, I have better things to do than hang out here. The vampiric boy then got up from his spot and walked over to the door with Sasuke and Sakura following him and was about to exit when Arashi called to him. Not so fast, Naruto-kun, I'm giving you and Team 7, excluding your sensei, a mission to do. Naruto then turned around with killer intent at the yellow flash that merely shrugged it off. He then opened his mouth to protest but was cut off. Don't worry, Naruto-kun, this will come out of your debt money. Naruto then hung his head knowing that he was caught and that at the moment he would do anything for money. Damn that blonde Teme, whenever I don't want to do something he always brings up that damn debt. When I pay it off I'm going to kick his ass. Sasuke clenched his fist in frustration since he was going to go home and tell his family about his newly unlocked Sharingan. Hokage-sama, what is the mission we have to do and why can't we do it tomorrow? Well, Sasuke, someone of your caliber should surely be able to take your team on the mission. But you have a personal solo mission, or do you think that they will be too hard for an Uchiha such as yourself? The Hokage said, deciding to play off the Uchiha's ego. Sasuke then took the bait. Of course I'll take them, just tell me what we have to do. Sakura looked in awe at her crush as only he would be able to take on the hard missions that they were about to receive, and Naruto scoffed at him. Stupid Uchiha falling for that hook, line and sinker. Arashi grinned at them. Well, your mission as a group is to show Miss Haku around the village, and Sasuke, your solo mission is to let her stay at your clan house. The whole team looked at him before the yell of, "What?" was heard throughout the entire village. Outside of the office, the team walked out with Haku in tow when Kakashi turned to his students with an eye smile. Well, have fun on your mission. I've got to go make up for lost time, if you know what I mean. Kakashi then giggled perversely and proofed away, leaving his students behind. Naruto then began to walk down the stairs by himself when Sasuke grabbed his shoulder. Where do you think you're going? You have to do this mission too. Naruto glared at him. I don't really care what the blonde Teme said, I'm hungry. If you want join me, I don't care. He continued his descent and walked down the street. Sasuke slammed his hand into a wall. Damn it, why does he have to that? Haku's stomach grumbled a little and she blushed. I don't really mind, in fact I'm hungry, too, and besides you can show me things on the way. The remaining members of Team 7 sighed and let Haku down. They walked in silence down the streets on their search for Naruto, with Sakura stopping to point out important things that Haku needed to know to navigate the village. Haku was smiling as she made their way through the village. When she passed people they smiled at her, something she wasn't used to because of her bloodline from Kiri, and also previously being in the company of a missing nin. The ice girl was also amazed at the life and beauty of the town. The colors were so different from the dull setting of Kiri. They continued like this for a while until they saw familiar red hair sticking out of a ramen shop. They ran over to Ichiraku and Sakura raised her hand to hit him upside his head. "You do it and you will become left-handed," mumbled Naruto, who was calmly using his chopsticks to eat. Sakura shrunk back in fear. "How did he know I was going to hit him? He's not natural Chaya," yelled inner Sakura, agreeing with her. Sasuke pulled up a seat next to him and ordered some ramen as well. "You know Naruto, maybe I should tell Yondaime-sama you abandoned us. You know I heard that your debt is pretty high." Naruto glared at him when smack on his back made him spill his ramen all over the table and Sasuke. "Naruto, how have you been, buddy?" came an obnoxious voice from behind him. They all turned around to see Team 6 standing at the entrance. Kyo had a big grin on and his arm extended since he was the one that threw a metal orb at Naruto. Kagura had a look in her eyes that clearly said that she didn't want to be there but had an amused smirk since Sasuke got a little wet from the excess ramen. Naruto turned back to the ramen chef and reordered and sarcastically muttered, "Great, the almighty Team 6 is here." Yukina immediately got her sheathed sword out and smacked the shaggy gray hair boy upside the head before apologizing to them. "Ow, Yukina-chan, why'd you do that? I was only saying hi," said Kyo, who was nursing the bruise on his head. "That's a nice look for you, Uchiha. It shows the level of your clan." Kagura smirked at Uchiha, who was trying to dry off his blue shirt. "Hey, Kazama, at least we got go on a C rank. Daddy's little girl is too sheltered for something like that," shot back Sasuke. Their eyes met and lighting crackled between them as their glaring contest continued. Haku, who was silent up until now, leaned over to Sakura, who was talking to Yukina, who was still apologizing about Kyo, and whispered, "What's up with them?" The pink-haired girl pointed at the green-haired girl. "That is Kazama Kagura, the heiress to the Kazama clan and daughter of the Yondaime, who we saw a little bit ago. The Uchiha, Kazama, Hyuga clans don't get along because they are the three great clans of Konoha. Sasuke-kun and Kagura don't like each other, especially because they tied for Rookie of the Year." Kyo, who was animatedly talking to Naruto, who was ignoring him, finally saw Haku and ran over to her. His eyes changed from hyper to calm and he took her hand in his. "Who are you? I don't believe I've gotten the name of the girl who has caught my eye." He brought the hand up to his lips and kissed it and looked her in the eye. "My name is Sabaku Kyo Beautiful." Haku's face turned beet red. "He's so cute. My name is Haku," she stuttered out. "Well then, Haku-chan, it's nice to meet you," Kyo said before wrapping her in a tight hug, causing her to turn even redder. Yukina's face turned red in anger and a little bit of jealousy, and Sakura rolled her eyes. "I should have expected him to hit on her. He hits on everyone he meets. I'm just surprised he hasn't groped her yet. I still remember the first time he came to the academy." Flashback start 2 years prior. "Well class, it seems we have an exchange student from Suna who will be staying here to promote good relations. His name is Sabaku Kyo, make him feel welcome," Iruka said from his spot in the front of the class. "You can come in now, Kyo." A gray-haired boy with a leather jacket came in looking extremely shy and bowed before starting a conversation with the teacher. Conversations erupted throughout the class about the student and about how he got here. Kiba looked around the room thoughtfully, counting everyone he knew to be in, noticing everyone he knew was there. Even Naruto was there for once in his corner, slurping a bottle everyone in a while. He then yelled out to the teacher, "Hey, who the hell did we trade for him?" Iruka shrugged. "I'm not entirely sure, must not have spoken up a lot or must not have been that important. Anyway, Kyo, go sit next to Sakura, the one with the pink hair." "Okay?" Kyo nodded and Iruka started his lecture. Kyo went to his seat every once in a while. He glanced around nervously until he felt a poke at his arm. Sakura smiled at him, her emerald eyes twinkled at him. "There's no need to be nervous here, everyone is nice, except maybe Naruto up there." She stopped to point at the pentacle bearer in the corner. "Anyway, my name is Haruno Sakura, it's nice to meet you." He smiled at her when she extended her hand out to him, expecting his hand to shake it. Instead, he extended his hand out also, but his hand didn't go to her hand but instead to her chest. His smile turned into a frown as he groped the red dress, expecting to feel something. Nothing there. The room got silent as anger began to emanate from Sakura, who yelled out, "Pervert!" and smacked him 2 rows back into Hinata's desk. Hinata, being the nice girl she is, helped him up, stuttering out, "Are you okay, Sabaku-san?" He didn't respond since he was still facing the front of the room, but he reached back and grabbed her chest and felt something through the coat before exclaiming with glee, "Much better." Hinata closed her eyes and her face turned red before slapping him in the face and yelling, "Pervert!" for once without a stutter, and promptly fainted. End flashback. Yukina nodded, remembering that event since he groped every girl he met that day and even didn't follow Sakura's advice and proceeded to pester Naruto every day he went to class. Yukina then looked back at Kyo hugging Haku, when she noticed a familiar gleam in his eye and his hand started to stray from its position and moved south. The restaurant became very quiet all of a sudden when a squeal was heard and slap mark was on the gray-haired boy. Haku stood several feet away from him, red-faced, obviously embarrassed. Kagura, deciding to be civil, walked up to the girl and explained the boy's behavior. Yukina sighed and proceeded to beat the boy into a bloody pulp. Sasuke rolled his eyes at the scene and ordered his ramen for himself, choosing to be like Naruto for once. Sakura helped Kyo up from his hole in the ground and steadied him. "Why are you guys here anyway?" "We're here because you're the only team we haven't seen in a while, and Kyo here really wanted to see you," Yukina said. All of a sudden a gasp was heard from outside the restaurant. Naruto and Sasuke paid for their ramen and both teams plus Haku ran outside. Gathered on the streets were many villagers standing on both sides with a path in the middle. Naruto fought his way to the front where he saw Konohamaru standing there with his two friends and put his hand on the boy's shoulder. The boy looked up and saw who it was and hugged Naruto. All around, whispered tones were around them. "Why are they here? They're not welcome here, especially of what they tried to do to the Hyugas." The rest of group caught up to them and looked around to see what was happening. "Konohamaru, what is happening here?" Naruto asked. The small boy pointed down the street where several groups of people were walking. The two most noticeable groups were in the back. One of the groups consisted of one boy and two girls. The male had purple hair tied back into a ponytail and was wearing white shirt with a green vest with normal shinobi pants. The weird things about the boy was that he had on 6 spear-like objects tied to his back and what appeared to be broken shackles attached to his arms. The girl standing to his right had long brown hair with several bells adorning her hair and was wearing form-fitting purple shirt with one sleeve long and the other one short, also wearing traditional shinobi pants. The last girl was by far the weirdest of the trio, was standing in front and appeared to be the leader of them. She had long blonde hair and cat ears sticking out of her head, garbed in a white robe with a tail sticking out. As they approached closer and closer, the reason for the stares became evident. All of them had forehead protectors with Kumo's insignia. The other group consisted were easily identified as being from Suna of 2 boys and 1 girl. One of them was dressed in all black with makeup on his face and an object on his back. The girl had blonde hair tied into 4 separate ponytails and a large metal object on her back. The shortest figure had short red hair, a tattoo above his right eye and a glove on one hand and a strange gourd on his back. Haku looked around confused about the whisperings. Why are they saying so many bad things about the Kumo Nen? Kagura looked at her skeptically. How could you not know? It was major event. Are you a baka? Haku blushed and whispered, I'm not a baka, it's just that I was always on the run and I never had a chance to learn any history. Kagura sighed and muttered something about stupid fools. Kyo took over for her, smiling as he did. The reason they're hated is because 7 years ago they attempted to kidnap the weak Hyuga heiress but failed, and the Hyuga had to give them the corpse of the brother of the current head to save the secret of the Byakugan. Kagura frowned. I don't know what father was thinking allowing them to come here. Everyone else nodded in agreement and continued to stare as the Kumo team passed. Unbeknownst to everyone, Kyo's smile disappeared and turned into a deep frown as his eyes shifted back to the Suna team. If they're here, that means bad news is to follow. Later that night, all the Chunin and Junin of the village were assembled in one room in rows, each whispering about the Kumo Nen. In front of them all was the Yondaime and the Sandaime. As you all know from the Chunin exam is about to start, and I am sure all of you are concerned over some individuals. Arashi started. A Chunin from the back shouted out, what were you thinking? They could just be here for another go at the Byakugan. His shouting started other people to begin yelling and voicing their concerns. Silece, the Sandaime uncharacteristically shouted, making the whole room quiet. The yellow flash cleared his throat and glared at the Chunin that almost started a riot. Before I was so rudely interrupted, I was going to say that I have spoken with the Hyuga clan and they have allowed them to come here as to allow better relations between us, but we'll up their security as a precaution. Now for the main order of business, do any of the rookie team's Junin instructors nominate their students, Arashi said. All 4 instructors walked forward and nominated their teams. Iruka rushed forward in attempt to stop them. You can't let them do this. I know all of those students. I was with them for many years. I know all of their skills. They aren't ready for this, said the scarred man. Guy stepped out from the crowd and put his hand on Kakashi and Rin's shoulders. You know, my eternal rival, Rin, I held back my team last year because I didn't think they were ready. Iruka's words hold a lot of truth. Rin and Kakashi both took his hands off them. Rin thanked him for his concern but said that they are ready. Kakashi looked at the school teacher. They are no longer your students, they are my subordinates, and I know what they are capable of. The Sandaime smiled at this exchange. It seems Iruka-kun has grown really attached to this group of genin, but I'm afraid he doesn't know the full extent of their abilities. I am afraid the only ones who do are the genin themselves. Iruka walked back to his spot looking defeated. Now that this issue is taken care of, who else is going to nominate their teams? The next day, Team 7 was scattered around their meeting bridge awaiting their sensei, who broke his own record for being late. Sakura was talking to Sasuke, interrogating him about Haku staying there with him and if she tried anything. Naruto was sitting quietly meditating, seemingly oblivious to the world, surrounded by bottles. The conversation was instantly ended when a poof was heard and Sakura, for what could have been the 1000th time, screamed, "You're late," almost shattering her crush's eardrum. While Sasuke was rubbing his ear trying to get hearing back, Kakashi made one of his usual excuses. They all noticed that Naruto still hadn't moved from his spot. Sakura went up to him getting ready to hit him but remembered his warning. Instead she chose to scream. After a failed attempt she poked him. He opened his gray eyes and took earplugs out of his ears. He's finally arrived. Sakura's face turned beet red and stomped off while Sasuke was left wondering where he could buy a pair. Kakashi then jumped down and handed each of them a form. I have nominated each of you for the Chunin exams. They're in a week, that's all. He then proofed away again, leaving the still fuming Sakura, who was screaming about having to wait all this time for a piece of paper. Elsewhere, 2 days later, the night sky was pitch black and many clouds covered the moon above a training ground where 3 people were. One of the figures was throwing kunai at the scattered targets. Hey, did you hear at this Chunin exam there are going to be rookies? Another figure was going through various stances of taijutsu and stopped. Yash Tenten, they won't stand up to our flames of youth, though. What do you think, Neji? The clouds above them parted so that the moonlight hit the last member, who had milky white eyes and long hair and was just sitting there as Ten threw a kunai, hitting the target above him. Stop with the flames of youth, but it doesn't matter who they are unlucky because it is their fate to lose, said Neji, smirking at a possible encounter with his cousin or the Kumo Nen. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.